Sign the papers." Lena's hand didn't shake. Her father had said those words 100 times before each one, another nail in the coffin of who she might have been. But this time was different. This time Thomas Cross wasn't asking her to sign away cattle or fix another fence line. He was asking her to disappear entirely, to give up her name, her work, everything she'd built with bleeding hands, so her sister could marry the richest man in 3 counties. And standing in the doorway, watching it all with eyes that saw too much, was Dawson Hale himself, the man who was supposed to want Eliza, not her. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, let's get back to Lena's world falling apart. Part 1. "Read it again," Thomas said. Lena had already read it twice. The document transferred her share of the Cross Ranch, the share she'd earned through 15 years of unacknowledged labor, to Eliza as dowry. Her father stood on the other side of his desk with his arms crossed, his face carved from the same unforgiving stone that had made him successful and made his daughters miserable in equal measure. "It's very clear," Lena said. "Then sign it." "I haven't said I would." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Thomas Cross was not a man accustomed to hearing the word no from anyone, least of all from the daughter he'd spent 2 decades pretending didn't exist, except when he needed her to mend something broken. "You'll sign it," he said, "or you'll leave this house with nothing, not a dollar, not a horse, not even the clothes you're standing in, because I paid for those too." "You didn't pay for them," Lena said quietly. "I did. With the cattle I raised and sold when you were too drunk to notice." Her father's hand came down on the desk hard enough to make the ink bottle jump. But Lena didn't flinch. She'd stopped flinching around him years ago, right around the time she'd realized that fear was just another tool he used to keep people small. "Eliza needs this marriage," Thomas said through his teeth. "The Hale family won't take her without proper settlement. You want to see your sister end up a spinster because you're too selfish to do what's right." "What's right," Lena said, "or what's convenient for you." That's when Dawson Hale stepped fully into the room. He'd been standing in the doorway so still that Lena had almost forgotten he was there, but now he moved with the kind of deliberate purpose that made everyone else in a room feel like they were suddenly taking up too much space. He was taller than her father, younger by a decade, and carried himself like a man who'd never had to ask for anything twice in his life. "Mr. Cross," Dawson said, "I'd like to speak with Lena alone." Thomas's face went purple. "Now you listen here." "Alone," Dawson repeated, and something in his voice made it clear that this wasn't a request anymore. Thomas looked like he wanted to argue, but even he wasn't fool enough to challenge Dawson Hale directly. Not when the Hale family controlled more land than anyone else in the territory. Not when their cattle contracts could make or break every small rancher from here to the border. He grabbed the document off the desk and stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Lena stood there in the sudden silence, aware of every breath she was taking, every inch of space between her and this man who was supposed to be planning a wedding to her sister. "You don't have to sign it," Dawson said. "I know that." "Do you?" Lena looked at him properly for the first time. He had the kind of face that was hard to read, sharp edges and careful control, the face of someone who'd learned early that showing weakness got you killed in one way or another. But his eyes were steady on hers, and there was something in them she didn't quite understand. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Your father invited me to discuss the marriage settlement." "That's not what I'm asking." Dawson smiled slightly. It didn't quite reach his eyes, but it changed his face enough to make him look almost human instead of like something carved from the same granite as the mountains that ringed the valley. "No," he said. "I suppose it's not." He crossed to the window and stood looking out at the ranch yard. Lena could see Eliza out there, walking with her friends, laughing at something one of them had said. Her sister had always been beautiful. The kind of beautiful that made men stupid and women jealous. And she'd been raised to believe that beauty was currency, that it would buy her everything she wanted in life. "Your sister is lovely," Dawson said, still looking out the window. "Yes. Charming. Well-mannered. Everything a man in my position is supposed to want." "Yes," Lena said again, wondering where this was going and why her heart had started beating faster. "But she doesn't know a damn thing about running a ranch." Lena blinked. Of all the things she'd expected him to say that hadn't been on the list, Dawson turned back to face her. "I need a wife," he said bluntly. "Not a decoration. Not someone to host parties and pour tea. I need someone who understands what it takes to build something real and keep it standing when everyone else wants to tear it down." "Then you're marrying the wrong sister." "I know." The words hung in the air between them like something solid, something that couldn't be taken back once it had been said out loud. "What are you saying?" Lena asked. Even though part of her already knew, part of her had known from the moment he'd walked into this room and looked at her like she was something worth looking at. "I'm saying, I want you to marry me instead." Lena laughed. She couldn't help it. The sound came out sharp and bitter, nothing like her sister's musical laugh that men seemed to find so enchanting. "That's not funny." "It's not a joke. My father would never allow it. This whole thing is arranged. The papers are already drawn up with Eliza's name on them." "Papers can be changed." "My father wants Eliza married to you. He's been planning this for months." "I don't particularly care what your father wants," Dawson said. "I'm asking what you want." Lena stared at him. No one had ever asked her that before. Not once in her entire life. Every decision had been made for her, around her, in spite of her. She'd learned to accept it the way you accept weather as something you endure but can't control. "Why me?" she asked. "Because 3 days ago, I watched you deliver a breech calf at midnight in the rain while your father slept off a bottle of whiskey in the house. You didn't hesitate. You didn't call for help. You just did what needed to be done." Lena remembered that night. She remembered the mud and the blood and the desperation of fighting to save something that everyone else had already given up for dead. She'd gotten the calf breathing, gotten them both to shelter, and then walked back to the house covered in filth with no one to see or care that she'd just performed a small miracle. "You were watching?" she asked. "I was riding past. I stopped." "But you didn't help." "You didn't need help," Dawson said. "That's the point. I need someone like that. Someone who doesn't need saving. Someone who can stand beside me, not behind me. You don't know anything about me. I know you're still standing here arguing with me instead of signing those papers like your father told you to. I know you're not afraid to get your hands dirty. I know you're smarter than you let people see because it's easier to be underestimated. And I know that if you stay here, your father will bleed you dry and give everything you've built to your sister without a second thought." Every word hit like a physical blow because every word was true. "This is insane," Lena said. "Probably. My family will disown me." "Very likely." "The whole town will talk." "They already do," Dawson said. "Might as well give them something worth talking about." Lena's mind was racing. She thought about the papers on her father's desk about Eliza's wedding that was supposed to happen in 6 weeks, about the fact that she'd been erased from her own life so thoroughly that no one would even notice if she disappeared completely. "What's in this for you?" she asked. "Really?" Dawson was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, gotten lower, more careful. "My father built an empire," he said. "But he built it on fear and manipulation and stepping on anyone who got in his way. I'm trying to build something different. Something that lasts beyond just brute force and terror. And I can't do that alone." "So you want a partner?" "Yes." "Not a wife?" "I want both," Dawson said. "If you're willing." Lena looked at him standing there in her father's office, this man who was supposed to belong to her sister, this stranger who somehow saw her more clearly than her own family ever had. She thought about all the years she'd spent invisible, all the work she'd done that would never be acknowledged, all the dreams she'd stopped having because dreaming hurt too much when nothing ever changed. "If I say yes," she said slowly, "I want it in writing. A real partnership. Not just pretty words that disappear the minute it's convenient for you to forget them. Dawson's smile this time did reach his eyes. Done. And I want... Lena stopped trying to find the courage to ask for what she really wanted. What? Dawson asked. Tell me. I want to matter, she said quietly. I want to be more than just convenient, more than just useful. You already are, Dawson said. You just haven't been around people who could see it. The door slammed open. Thomas stormed back in with Eliza trailing behind him, her face pale and confused. What the hell is going on? Thomas demanded. I just heard from Jake Martin that you're calling off the wedding. Not calling it off, Dawson said calmly. Redirecting it. Thomas turned red. You can't just, Eliza, we had an agreement. An agreement I'm willing to honor, Dawson said. Just with a different bride. Eliza's face crumpled. She looked at Lena with something like betrayal in her eyes, and Lena felt a stab of guilt, even though she hadn't done anything except stand here and listen. You can't marry her, Thomas said, jabbing a finger at Lena. She's not suitable. She's not what we discussed. She's exactly what I need, Dawson said. The question is whether she agrees. Every eye in the room turned to Lena. Her father looked furious. Eliza looked devastated. Dawson looked patient, like he'd wait forever if that's what it took. Lena thought about the papers on the desk, about her name being erased, about spending the rest of her life in this house that had never felt like home. She thought about Dawson's offer, insane, impossible, terrifying in its implications. She thought about the breech calf she'd saved in the rain, about how it had felt to fight for something and win. Yes, she said. The word came out steady and clear. No hesitation, no trembling. Yes, she said again, louder this time. I'll marry you, Thomas exploded. Like hell you will. I'm your father and I'm telling you right now. You're telling me nothing, Lena said, and her voice had changed too, gotten harder somehow. You stopped being my father the day you decided I was only worth what I could do for you. I'm leaving. You walk out that door and you're dead to me, Thomas said. You understand, dead to this family. You'll never set foot on this ranch again. Lena looked at him and felt nothing. No fear, no sadness, just a strange, weightless freedom. Then I guess I'm dead, she said. She walked to the door. Dawson followed. Behind them, Eliza started crying, and Thomas was shouting something about betrayal and ingratitude, but it all seemed far away now, like something happening to someone else. Outside, the sun was setting over the mountains, painting everything gold and red. Lena stopped on the porch steps, breathing in the evening air, feeling like she was tasting it for the first time. You need to pack, Dawson asked. Lena thought about her room upstairs, the narrow bed, the few dresses, the books she'd bought with money she'd hidden from her father. She thought about the 15 years of her life she'd spent in that house. No, she said. There's nothing in there I want to keep. Dawson nodded, like this made perfect sense. He walked to his horse and swung into the saddle with easy grace, then reached down to offer her his hand. Lena looked at that hand for a long moment. Once she took it, everything would change. There would be no going back. Her family would hate her. The town would judge her. She'd be walking into a completely unknown future with a man she barely knew. She took his hand. He pulled her up behind him, and she wrapped her arms around his waist to keep her balance. The horse moved forward at his command, and they rode away from the cross ranch as the sun finished setting and the first stars came out. Behind them, Thomas Cross stood on the porch shouting curses that got swallowed by the growing darkness. Eliza was still crying somewhere inside. The ranch that Lena had built with her own labor sat there looking the same as it always had, indifferent to the fact that its best worker had just walked away forever. Lena didn't look back. Where are we going? She asked. My ranch, Dawson said. The Hale place. It's about 3 hours north. What's it like? Big, complicated, full of people who are going to be very surprised to meet you. Is your father there? Yes. Dawson's voice had gone carefully neutral. Victor Hale. He's not an easy man. Neither is mine, Lena said. I think I can handle it. Dawson laughed quietly. Yes, he said. I think you can too. They rode in silence for a while, following the road north as the night deepened around them. Lena had never been this far from home before. Everything was unfamiliar, the shape of the hills, the smell of the air, even the stars looked different somehow. Are you afraid? Dawson asked. Lena thought about it honestly. Yes, she said, but I've been afraid before. It never stopped me from doing what needed to be done. Good, Dawson said. Because where we're going, you're going to need that. They crested a hill, and Lena saw lights in the distance. A sprawling ranch house, bigger than anything she'd ever seen, surrounded by outbuildings and corrals that seemed to go on forever. The Hale Empire built on cattle and land, and the kind of ruthless ambition that crushed anyone who got in its way. Lena tightened her grip on Dawson's waist. She'd just burned down her entire life for this, for a chance at something different, something more. She'd walked away from everything familiar for a man who'd seen her save a calf in the rain, and decided she was worth more than her beautiful sister. Now, she had to prove he was right. The horse carried them down the hill toward the lights, toward the unknown future waiting there in the darkness. Lena didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if she could survive in this new world she'd just stepped into. She didn't know if Dawson's promise of partnership was real, or just another pretty lie designed to keep her useful. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty: she was done being invisible. She was done being the daughter no one chose. She was done letting other people decide what her life was worth. Whatever came next, she'd face it standing up. The Hale ranch house grew larger as they approached its windows, glowing with warm light that spilled out into the yard. Lena could see figures moving inside shadows of people who had no idea their world was about to change. Dawson guided the horse to the main house and dismounted, then helped Lena down. Her legs felt strange after the long ride, but she forced herself to stand steady. The front door opened. A man stepped out, older than Dawson, with the same sharp features, but harder carved deeper by time, and whatever choices he'd made along the way. This had to be Victor Hale. He looked at Lena, then at Dawson, then back at Lena. Well, Victor said slowly, this isn't Eliza Cross. No, sir, Dawson said. This is Lena Cross, my fiancée. Victor's eyebrows went up. For a long moment, he just stared at them both, his expression unreadable. Then unexpectedly, he started to laugh, a rough barking sound that had very little humor in it. You brought home the wrong sister, Victor said. Do you have any idea what kind of hell is about to rain down on us? Thomas Cross is going to lose his mind. The whole territory is going to talk. And that's before we even get into what the other ranchers are going to say when they find out you threw over a beauty like Eliza for... He stopped, looking at Lena again with sharper eyes. For her. Yes, sir, Dawson said calmly. I'm aware. You better have a damn good reason. I do. Victor waited, but Dawson didn't elaborate. The old man's eyes narrowed, but there was something almost like respect in his expression now. All right then, Victor said. Bring her inside. Martha. He called back into the house. Set another place at the table. We've got company. He turned and went back into the house without waiting for a response. Dawson looked at Lena. Last chance to run, he said quietly. Lena looked at the house, at the empire built on ruthlessness and fear, at the unknown challenges waiting inside. She thought about the girl she'd been this morning, invisible, ignored, slowly erasing herself to make room for other people's dreams. I'm not running, she said. She walked up the steps and through the door into the Hale house, into her new life, into whatever fate she'd just chosen for herself. Behind her, Dawson smiled in the darkness. Then he followed her inside, closing the door on the old world and everything they'd both left behind. The inside of the Hale house smelled like leather and wood smoke, and something else Lena couldn't quite identify, power maybe, or the residue of decades of decisions made without apology. Martha turned out to be a woman in her 50s, with iron gray hair and eyes that took in everything at once. She looked at Lena standing there in her work clothes still dusty from the road, and her expression didn't change at all. "This is Lena Cross," Dawson said. "She'll be staying here. We're getting married." Martha's eyes flicked to Victor, who nodded once, then back to Lena. "Your room's upstairs," Martha said. "Third door on the left. Dinner's in 20 minutes. Don't be late." She disappeared into what must have been the kitchen, without waiting for a response. Victor had already settled himself in a chair by the fireplace, with a glass of whiskey, watching Lena like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve yet. "Well," Victor said, "you going to stand there all night, or are you going to tell me why my son threw over the prettiest girl in the territory for Thomas Cross's workhorse daughter?" Lena felt Dawson tense beside her, but she put a hand on his arm before he could say anything. "Because your son is smarter than you're giving him credit for," she said. The room went very quiet. Victor's eyes narrowed. "That's so. Pretty doesn't run a ranch," Lena said. "Pretty doesn't know the difference between a sick calf and a healthy one. Pretty doesn't wake up at 4 in the morning to check on heifers in labor. My sister is beautiful and charming and utterly useless for what your son actually needs." Victor stared at her for a long moment. Then he started laughing again, that same rough bark that sounded like it hurt coming out. "She's got spine," he said to Dawson. "I'll give you that much." He turned back to Lena. "You think spine is enough? You know what you just walked into." "Not entirely," Lena admitted. "But I learn fast." "You better," Victor said, "because Thomas Cross isn't going to let this go. He's going to come after you both with everything he's got, and he's not the only one. Every rancher in this valley is going to see Dawson breaking an engagement as a sign of weakness. They're going to push, test boundaries, try to take what's ours." "Then we'll push back," Lena said. Victor smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. "We'll see how long that attitude lasts when things get ugly. And they will get ugly." He drained his whiskey glass. "Dawson, show her upstairs. Dinner in 15 minutes now." Dawson led Lena up a wide staircase that had probably cost more than her father's entire house. The third door on the left opened into a bedroom that was bigger than the room she'd shared with Eliza growing up. There was an actual wardrobe, a proper bed with a quilted coverlet, a washstand with a mirror. "This is just for tonight," Dawson said. "After we're married, we'll share the master bedroom." Lena nodded, suddenly aware of what she'd actually agreed to. Marriage to a stranger, sharing his bed, becoming his wife in every sense of the word. "You're having second thoughts," Dawson said quietly. "I'm having about 100 thoughts," Lena said. "That's not the same as regretting it." "Good, because I meant what I said. Partnership. I'm not looking for someone to order around. Your father seems to think differently." "My father built this place by crushing anyone who challenged him," Dawson said. "I'm trying to build something that doesn't require fear to hold it together. That's why I need you. You don't even know if I can do what you think I can do." "Yes, I do," Dawson said. "You delivered that calf. You stood up to your father. You just told Victor Hale to his face that he was underestimating me. You're exactly what I need." There was a knock on the doorframe. Martha stood there with an armful of clothes. "These belong to Dawson's mother," she said. "They might fit you. Can't have you coming to dinner looking like you just mucked out stables." She set the clothes on the bed and left without waiting for thanks. Lena looked at the dresses, simple but well made, the kind of practical clothing a ranchwoman would actually wear. "Your mother?" Lena asked. "She died when I was 12, Dawson said. "Fever. Victor never remarried, never even looked at another woman after she was gone. He loved her." "More than anything," Dawson said. "It's the only soft spot he's got left." He left Lena alone to change. She washed quickly and put on one of the dresses, a deep blue cotton that fit reasonably well. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself, not because she looked different, but because for the first time in her life, she looked like someone who mattered. Dinner was tense. Victor sat at the head of the table, Dawson on his right, Lena on his left. Martha served beef and potatoes and vegetables from what must have been an enormous garden, and for a few minutes the only sound was silverware on plates. "So," Victor said finally, "what's your plan?" Dawson looked up. For what? For handling the shitstorm that's about to hit. Thomas Cross isn't going to take this lying down. Neither will the Williams family. They've been pushing to buy our southern pasture for 6 months, and they're going to see this as their chance to force the issue. And then there's the Brennan brothers, who've been waiting for any excuse to start trouble. We handle it the same way we handle everything else, Dawson said. We hold our ground. That's not a plan, that's a platitude. Lena set down her fork. What if we didn't just defend? What if we went on the offensive? Both men looked at her. Explain, Victor said. The Williams family wants the southern pasture because it's got the best water access in the valley, Lena said. They need it because their own land is drying up. Instead of selling it to them, what if we offered to share the water? Set up an agreement that gives them access in exchange for something you need. We don't need anything from the Williams family, Victor said. You need allies, Lena said. Right now, every other rancher in this territory sees the Hale Ranch as competition. They're all waiting for you to show weakness so they can take what's yours. But if you started working with them instead of against them, you'd be building something they can't tear down. Victor's expression was unreadable. That's not how my father built this place. No, Lena said. But it's how you keep it standing for another generation. Dawson was looking at her with something like wonder in his eyes. Victor just sat there, turning his whiskey glass in his hand. You've been here 2 hours, Victor said, and you're already trying to rebuild the empire. You asked for a plan, Lena said. I'm giving you one. Victor laughed again, but this time it sounded almost genuine. All right, I'll think about it. But first, you're going to have to survive meeting the Brennan brothers tomorrow. Why are we meeting them? Dawson asked sharply. Because I set up a meeting 3 weeks ago to discuss grazing rights on the Eastern Range. I'm not canceling just because you decided to get yourself a new fiancé. The Brennan brothers are going to see Lena as a vulnerability, Dawson said. Then she better prove them wrong, Victor said. He looked at Lena. They're going to try to rattle you, get under your skin, make you lose your temper. If you do, they'll use it against us. They'll spread the word that Dawson married a woman who can't handle pressure. I can handle pressure, Lena said. We'll find out tomorrow, Victor said. After dinner, Dawson walked Lena back upstairs. At her door, he paused. My father is testing you, he said. The Brennan meeting, the questions at dinner, it's all a test. I know. If you want to back out, I don't, Lena said firmly. I told you, I'm done running from things. Dawson smiled. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be difficult. But Lena couldn't sleep. She lay in the unfamiliar bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. 24 hours ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was engaged to one of the most powerful men in the territory, and about to walk into a confrontation with people who would see her as weakness personified. Sometime around midnight, she got up and went downstairs. The house was quiet, everyone else asleep. She found her way to the kitchen and was surprised to discover Martha sitting at the table with a cup of tea. Can't sleep? Martha asked. Too much thinking, Lena said. Martha gestured to the chair across from her. Lena sat. For a while, neither of them spoke. You know what you're doing? Martha asked finally. No, Lena admitted. But I never have. I just do what needs to be done and hope it works out. Martha smiled slightly. You remind me of her. Dawson's mother, Catherine. She came here the same way you did, sudden, unexpected, everyone thinking Victor was making a terrible mistake. What happened? She proved them all wrong, Martha said. Ran this ranch as well as Victor did. Better in some ways. She had a way of seeing what people needed before they knew it themselves. She looked at Lena over her teacup. Victor's been impossible since she died. Meaner, harder. Dawson's trying to be different, but he's got his father's blood in him. He needs someone who can see the difference between strength and cruelty. You think I can do that? I think you're going to have to, Martha said. Because if you can't, this whole place is going to eat you alive. The next morning came too early. Lena dressed in another of Catherine's dresses, braided her hair back the way she always did for work, and went downstairs to find Dawson and Victor already waiting. "The Brennan brothers will be here in an hour," Victor said without preamble. "They're bringing their foreman Jack Carson. He's the real problem, smart, vicious, and he's been looking for a way to undermine us for years." "What do they want?" Lena asked. "Access to the eastern range for their cattle," Dawson said. "It's good grazing land, and they know it. They've been trying to bully us into giving them favorable terms. Are you going to—" "Hell no," Victor said. "But we need to make them think we might just to keep them from causing trouble elsewhere." The Brennan brothers arrived exactly on time, two big men with hard faces and harder eyes. Their foreman Jack Carson was smaller but meaner, with the look of someone who enjoyed other people's pain just a little too much. They all gathered in Victor's office. The Brennan brothers took the chairs across from Victor's desk. Carson stood behind them, his eyes moving, constantly cataloging everything. When his gaze landed on Lena, it stopped. "Who's this?" he asked. "Lena Cross," Dawson said. "My fiancée." "Thought you were marrying Eliza Cross," the older Brennan brother said. Tom Lena thought his name was. "Change of plans," Dawson said. Carson smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Thomas Cross know about this change of plans." "He does now," Dawson said evenly. "Bet that went over well," Carson said. "Bet he's madder than hell. Bet he's already talking to the other ranchers about what kind of man breaks his word like that." "We're not here to discuss my personal life," Dawson said. "We're here to discuss grazing rights." "Oh, I think your personal life is very relevant," Carson said. He looked at Lena again. "See, when a man makes decisions with his dick instead of his head, it tells you something about his judgment, makes you wonder what other stupid choices he might make." Dawson stood up so fast his chair fell over. Victor put a hand on his arm. "Careful, Jack," Victor said quietly. "You're in my house." "Just making an observation," Carson said, still smiling. "No offense meant to the lady." Lena had been sitting quietly through all of this, but now she spoke. "None taken," she said calmly. "I'm sure Mr. Carson knows all about making poor choices. How's that land fraud case working out? The one where you tried to forge deed transfers for the Mackenzie property?" Carson's smile disappeared. "That case was dismissed, because the Mackenzie family couldn't afford to keep fighting in court," Lena said. "Not because you were innocent. Everyone knows you did it. Everyone knows you're a cheat." The room had gone very still. Carson's face had turned an ugly red. "You better watch your mouth, girl." "Or what?" Lena asked. "You'll try to intimidate me the way you intimidated the Mackenzies. I'm not scared of you, Mr. Carson, and neither should anyone else be." Tom Brennan cleared his throat. "Maybe we should get back to business." But Carson wasn't done. "You think you're clever? You think you can come in here and start throwing accusations around? You're nothing. You're Thomas Cross's spare daughter, the one he couldn't even give away until Dawson got desperate enough to take you." "If I'm nothing," Lena said, "why are you so worried about what I just said?" Victor made a sound that might have been a laugh. Even Dawson looked impressed. Carson glared at her, but he didn't have a good answer. The older Brennan brother Tom shot him a warning look. "Let's talk about the Eastern Range," Tom said. "We're willing to pay fair market rate for seasonal access. 6 months, April through September." "Fair market rate," Victor said. "Or what you think you can bully us into accepting." "We're not here to bully anyone," Tom's younger brother said. He was the quieter one, but his eyes were sharp. "We're here to negotiate." "Then negotiate," Dawson said. "What are you actually offering?" What followed was an hour of careful verbal sparring, each side testing the other, looking for weakness. Lena mostly listened, learning how these kinds of discussions worked, seeing the patterns underneath the words. Carson kept throwing in subtle digs, trying to provoke a reaction, but everyone else ignored him. Finally, they reached a tentative agreement: limited grazing rights in exchange for water access during drought season, and a promise not to interfere with hail cattle drives through Brennan territory. After they left, Victor poured himself a whiskey, even though it was barely noon. "That," he said, "was interesting." "She held her own," Dawson said, looking at Lena with something like pride. She did more than that, Victor said. She went after Carson directly. That took guts. He was trying to provoke us, Lena said. I figured if I provoked him back, he'd lose focus on what he was actually here to do. Victor raised his glass to her. Like I said, interesting. But the victory was short-lived. That afternoon, a writer came with a message from town. Thomas Cross had filed a formal complaint with the territorial court claiming that Dawson had broken a binding marriage contract. He was demanding financial compensation and threatening to sue the Hale family for damages. Can he do that? Lena asked. He can try, Victor said grimly. The problem isn't whether he'll win, he won't. The problem is what this does to our reputation. Every contract we've made, every agreement we've signed, people are going to start questioning whether we can be trusted. We can countersue, Dawson said. Claim there was no binding contract because you never actually agreed to marry Eliza, Lena finished. The negotiations were ongoing. No papers were signed. Exactly, Dawson said. That's not going to stop people from talking, Victor said. And talk is sometimes worse than lawsuits. Lena thought about her father, about the rage she'd seen in his face when she'd walked out. She thought about Eliza crying about the family she'd just lost. What if I talked to him? She said quietly. Both men looked at her like she'd lost her mind. No, Dawson said immediately. He's not going to listen to you, Victor said. He's going to use it against us, make you look weak, make us look desperate. Maybe, Lena said. But he's my father. He's not your father anymore, Dawson said firmly. He made that clear when he disowned you. You don't owe him anything. But Lena couldn't shake the feeling that there was something she was missing, some angle to this she couldn't quite see yet. That night, she lay awake again, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the Hale house settling around her. Somewhere downstairs, she could hear Victor and Dawson arguing in low voices. Outside, the wind was picking up, bringing the smell of rain. She thought about everything that had happened in the past 2 days. She thought about the choice she'd made, the bridges she'd burned, the future she'd committed to, without really understanding what it would cost. And she wondered if she was strong enough for what was coming. Because Victor was right about one thing. This was only the beginning. The real test was still ahead. The answer came 3 days later, but not from the direction Lena expected. She was in the stables checking on a mare with a swollen hock when Martha found her. Victor wants to see you, Martha said. In his office. Now. Lena wiped her hands on her skirt and followed. When she entered the office, Victor was standing at the window with his back to her. Dawson was there too, his face tight with anger. Sit down, Victor said without turning around. Lena sat. The silence stretched out, deliberate and uncomfortable. Your father, Victor said finally, has made a very interesting move. What kind of move? He's allied himself with Richard Williams and the Brennan brothers. They've formed what they're calling a cattlemen's association. Claims it's about mutual protection and fair business practices. Victor turned to face her. What it actually is a group of ranchers who've decided the Hale family has too much power, and they're going to break us. Lena felt her stomach drop. When did this happen? The papers were filed this morning, Dawson said. They're planning a meeting next week, inviting every rancher in the territory except us. They're trying to isolate us, Lena said quietly. Smart girl, Victor said, but there was no warmth in it. Which brings me to my question. Did you know your father was planning this? The accusation hung in the air like smoke. No, Lena said. You sure about that? Because the timing is awfully convenient. You show up here, we get distracted with the engagement, and suddenly your father has time to build a coalition against us. I didn't know, Lena said, forcing herself to stay calm, even though her heart was racing. But I'm not surprised. My father doesn't lose gracefully. That's not good enough, Victor said. For all I know, you're still loyal to him. For all I know, this whole thing was planned from the start. Victor, Dawson said sharply. That's enough. Is it, She's been here less than a week and we're already dealing with the worst political situation we've faced in a decade. You don't think that's suspicious? Lena stood up slowly. You think I'm a spy? You think I orchestrated all of this just to help my father, the man who told me I was dead to him, destroy you? I think people do stranger things for family, Victor said. He's not my family anymore, Lena said. You made that choice for me when you decided to test me instead of trust me. Trust is earned, Victor said coldly. And you haven't earned a damn thing yet. Then let me earn it, Lena said. Let me go to that meeting. Dawson shook his head. No, that's exactly what they want, to make you look weak in front of everyone. Or, Lena said, it's a chance to show them that I'm not, that we're not. Victor studied her with those sharp, calculating eyes. What are you proposing? I go to the meeting, I listen, and when they start talking about how the Hale family can't be trusted, I tell them the truth. Which truth? Victor asked. That my son broke an engagement because he liked the look of you better. That's not going to win us any allies. No, Lena said. I tell them that the engagement to Eliza was never finalized, that there was no contract, that my father is lying about the whole thing to save face and gain power. They'll call you a liar, Dawson said. Let them, Lena said. I can prove it. There were no signed documents, no witnesses to any binding agreement. My father can't produce evidence that doesn't exist. Victor's expression shifted slightly. That might work, if you can pull it off without falling apart when they come after you. I won't fall apart, Lena said. We'll see, Victor said. The meeting is in 4 days. If you're going to do this, you better prepare yourself for the worst they can throw at you. Those 4 days were brutal. Victor drilled her relentlessly on every aspect of ranch law, every precedent, every argument her father might use. He deliberately insulted her, provoked her, tried to make her lose her temper. You're weak, he said during one session. You don't have the backbone for this. You're going to walk in there and fold the minute someone challenges you. I'm still standing here, aren't I? Lena shot back. Standing here in my office is different from standing in front of 20 ranchers who all think you're a whore who seduced my son away from your prettier sister. Lena's hands clenched into fists, but she kept her voice level. Let them think what they want. I know what I am. Do you... Victor leaned forward. Because from where I'm sitting, you're a desperate girl who took the first escape route offered and is now in way over her head. From where I'm sitting, Lena said, you're a bitter old man who's so afraid of losing control that you're willing to destroy anyone who might actually help you keep it. The room went silent. Dawson looked like he wanted to intervene, but didn't quite dare. Then Victor smiled. Actually smiled. Good, he said. That's what you need. That fire. Don't lose it when the pressure's on. The night before the meeting, Lena couldn't sleep again. She went downstairs and found Dawson sitting alone in the dark drinking whiskey. You should be sleeping, he said. So should you. He poured her a glass without asking if she wanted one. Lena took it and sat down across from him. My father is going to try to break you tomorrow, Dawson said quietly. Not just discredit you, actually break you, make you so small that no one will ever take you seriously again. I know. And you're still going? Yes. Dawson looked at her in the dim light. Why, you could stay here. Let me handle this. Let Victor handle this. Because if I do that, Lena said, I'll never be anything more than your wife. I'll never be a partner. I'll always be the woman you had to protect. There's no shame in needing protection. There is when you're trying to prove you don't need it, Lena said. I didn't leave my father's house just to hide in yours. Dawson was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, What if they destroy you anyway? What if you go in there and give it everything you've got and they still tear you apart? Then at least I'll know I tried, Lena said. At least I'll know I stood up instead of hiding. The meeting was held in the largest building in town, a warehouse that usually stored grain, but had been cleared out for the occasion. When Lena arrived with Dawson and Victor, 20 ranchers were already there, including her father. Thomas Cross looked at her like she was something he'd scraped off his boot. The meeting was called to order by Richard Williams, a silver-haired man with the kind of smooth confidence that came from never having to fight for anything in his life. "Gentlemen," Williams said, "we're here to discuss the future of fair ranching practices in this territory. For too long, the Hale family has operated outside the normal rules that govern the rest of us. They've bullied, manipulated, and broken agreements whenever it suited them." "That's a lie," Dawson said flatly. "Is it?" Williams turned to Thomas Cross. "Mr. Cross, would you care to explain what happened with your family's arrangement with the Hales?" Thomas stood up slowly. Lena had never seen him look so righteous, so certain of his ground. "My daughter Eliza was promised to Dawson Hale," Thomas said. "Negotiations were completed, terms were agreed upon, and then, with no warning and no explanation, Dawson decided he wanted my other daughter instead. He broke his word, humiliated my family, and made a mockery of the principles that are supposed to govern how we do business with each other." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. "That's not what happened," Lena said, standing up. Every eye in the room turned to her. She could feel the weight of their judgment, their assumptions about who she was and why she was there. "Then tell us," Williams said smoothly. "What did happen?" "There was no agreement," Lena said. "No contract was ever signed. No terms were finalized. My father and Dawson had preliminary discussions about a possible engagement, but nothing was made official." "That's a lie," Thomas said. "We had an understanding." "An understanding isn't a contract," Lena said, "and you know it. If you had actual proof of a binding agreement, you would have brought it. You would have shown it to everyone here. But you can't, because it doesn't exist." "You're calling your own father a liar," someone called out from the back of the room. "I'm saying he's desperate," Lena said. "He wanted Eliza married to the Hale family so badly that he was willing to sign away my share of our ranch to make it happen. When that plan fell apart, he couldn't admit that maybe, just maybe, his daughter wasn't what Dawson needed, so instead, he created this story about broken promises and betrayal." "Why should we believe you?" another rancher asked. "Because I have nothing to gain from lying," Lena said. "My father disowned me. I'm dead to my family. I'm not here defending the Hales because I have to. I'm here because what my father is trying to do is wrong." Thomas's face had gone purple. "You ungrateful—" "Careful," Victor said quietly, and something in his voice made Thomas stop. But Jack Carson, the Brennan foreman, wasn't done. "Let's say you're telling the truth about the contract," Carson said, standing up. "Let's say there was no formal agreement. That doesn't change the fact that the Hale family operates by different rules than everyone else. They take what they want and crush anyone who gets in their way." "Like you tried to take the Mackenzie property?" Lena asked. Carson's expression darkened. "That case was dismissed." "Because the Mackenzies couldn't afford to fight you in court," Lena said. "Everyone in this room knows it. Everyone knows you forged those deed transfers and got away with it because you had money and they didn't." "You don't know what you're talking about," Carson said, but his voice had gotten higher, defensive. "Don't I?" Lena looked around the room. "How many of you have been pressured by the Brennan brothers? How many of you have had to make deals you didn't want to make because they threatened you? And now you're all sitting here acting like the Hale family is the problem." "The Hale family is the problem," Williams said. "They control too much land, too many contracts, too much power." "Then break that power the right way," Lena said. "Form your association, set up fair practices, create rules that everyone has to follow. But don't do it by spreading lies about broken contracts. Don't do it by letting people like Jack Carson hide their own crimes behind righteous speeches about fairness." "You think you're so smart," Carson said, moving toward her. "You think you can come in here and—" Dawson was on his feet, instantly putting himself between Carson and Lena. "Don't," he said quietly. "Don't even think about it." For a moment, the room balanced on the edge of violence. Then Tom Brennan stood up. "That's enough," Tom said. "We're here to talk, not fight." "Are we?" Lena asked. "Because it seems to me like you're all here to attack the Hale family without actually examining your own behavior. You want to talk about fair practices." "Fine," Let's talk about how the Williams family has been dumping waste upstream from everyone else's water supply. Let's talk about how the Brennan brothers have been running cattle through other people's land without permission. Let's talk about all the ways you've bent the rules when it suited you. The room erupted in shouts. Williams was on his feet. Tom Brennan was arguing with someone, and Thomas Cross was trying to talk over everyone. Victor stood up, and his voice cut through the chaos like a knife. Quiet. Everyone stopped. My future daughter-in-law has made some valid points, Victor said. You all want to form an association to protect yourselves from us. Go ahead. But if you're going to do it honestly. Don't hide behind Thomas Cross's wounded pride and pretend this is about broken contracts. Face us straight on, and we'll deal with you straight on. And if we don't, Williams asked. Then we'll fight, Victor said simply. And you all know how that will end. It wasn't quite a threat. It wasn't quite a promise. It was just a statement of fact delivered with absolute certainty. The meeting broke up shortly after that, with nothing really resolved but the lines clearly drawn. As people filed out, Lena caught sight of her father. He was staring at her with an expression she couldn't quite read, rage maybe, or something worse. You're going to regret this, Thomas said as he walked past. You're going to regret choosing them over your own blood. You stopped being my blood when you tried to erase me, Lena said quietly. Thomas didn't answer. He just walked out into the fading light, and Lena watched him go with a strange hollow feeling in her chest. On the ride back to the ranch, no one spoke for a long time. Finally, Victor said, "That was either the smartest thing you've ever done or the stupidest. We'll find out which soon enough." They're going to come after us harder now, Dawson said. Let them, Lena said. At least now it's out in the open. At least now we know who we're fighting. But that night, lying in bed, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she'd missed something important. The meeting had gone as well as could be expected, but there was something underneath all the arguments, some current she couldn't quite identify. The answer came 2 days later when one of the ranch hands rode in with news that changed everything. "Boss," the hand said to Victor, breathless from riding hard, "you need to see this." They all rode out to the eastern range, Victor, Dawson, Lena, and 3 of the most trusted hands. What they found made Lena's blood run cold. Someone had cut the fence lines and driven off nearly 100 head of cattle. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the message left behind carved into a fence post. The Hale Empire was built on stolen land. Time to give it back. Victor's face had gone white. Dawson looked like he'd been punched in the gut. "What does that mean?" Lena asked. "What stolen land?" Neither of them answered right away. The silence stretched out heavy with implications Lena was only beginning to understand. "Tell me," she said. "If I'm going to be part of this family, if I'm going to stand beside you and fight for this place, I need to know the truth. All of it." Victor and Dawson exchanged a look. Then Victor sighed, and for the first time since Lena had met him, he looked old. 30 years ago, Victor said slowly. "When I was first building this place, I needed land. A lot of land. There was a family, the Johnsons, who had a section of prime grazing territory. They didn't want to sell. So I found another way." "What way?" Lena asked, though part of her already knew the answer. "I falsified some documents," Victor said flatly. "Made it look like they owed debts they didn't actually owe. When they couldn't pay, I foreclosed. Took the land. They lost everything." Lena felt like the ground had dropped out from under her. "You destroyed a family." "I built an empire," Victor said. "And yes, I did it by destroying people who got in my way. The Johnsons weren't the only ones. There were others. Some I bought out fairly. Some I didn't." "Does anyone else know about this?" Lena asked. "A few people," Dawson said quietly. "My father tried to make it right before he died. He tracked down some of the families, tried to offer compensation. Most of them wouldn't take it." "And now someone's using it against you," Lena said. "Against us," Dawson corrected. "You're part of this now, too." Lena looked at the carved message on the fence post. She thought about everything she'd said at the meeting, every argument she'd made about fairness and honesty. And now she was learning that the empire she'd agreed to help build was founded on exactly the kind of corruption she'd been condemning. "We have to fix this," she said. "Fix it how?" Victor asked. "What's done is done. I can't give those families back the 30 years they lost." "No," Lena said. "But you can give them what they're owed now. You can find the descendants of everyone you cheated and make it right." "That would cost us half the ranch," Victor said. "Then it costs us half the ranch," Lena said. "Because if we don't do this, everything else I said at that meeting was a lie. Everything we're trying to build is built on sand." Victor stared at her for a long moment. Then he started to laugh, that rough, bitter sound that Lena had learned meant he was impressed despite himself. "You're either incredibly naive," he said, "or the only honest person I've met in 30 years. "I'm the person you chose to bring into this family," Lena said. "Start acting like it." The ride back to the ranch was silent. But as they approached the house, Lena could see riders waiting in the yard. "A lot of riders. That's not good," one of the hands muttered. As they got closer, Lena recognized the lead rider. It was Tom Brennan, the older brother, and he looked grim. They dismounted. Tom Brennan did the same. "We need to talk," Tom said. "All of us, before this whole valley tears itself apart." Victor didn't invite them inside. He stood there in the yard with his hand resting on his gun belt, and Lena realized this could go very wrong very fast. "Say what you came to say," Victor said. Tom Brennan looked tired. His brother stood beside him, and behind them were 6 more riders, all armed. But Tom's hands were empty, held out where everyone could see them. "Someone's been talking to my ranch hands," Tom said, "offering them money to start fires, sabotage equipment, make it look like accidents." "Who?" Dawson asked sharply. "Don't know. They're using intermediaries. But whoever it is, they're trying to start a range war, and they're doing a damn good job of it." "Why come to us?" Victor asked. "Because we're not stupid," Tom said. "Whoever's doing this wants us fighting each other. Wants us so busy tearing each other apart that we don't notice what they're really after." Lena's mind was racing. "The stolen land," she said quietly. "Someone knows about the stolen land and they're using it to destabilize everything." Tom's expression shifted. "What stolen land?" Victor's jaw tightened. For a long moment, Lena thought he wasn't going to answer. Then he said, 30 years ago, I took property that didn't belong to me. Falsified documents, ruined families, built this ranch on land that should never have been mine." The riders behind Tom shifted uneasily. Tom himself looked like he'd been hit. "Jesus Christ, Victor," Tom said. "How many families?" 6, Victor said. "Maybe 7. I stopped counting." "And someone knows about this?" "Apparently," Dawson said. "Someone carved it on a fence post out on the eastern range, right before they drove off 100 head of cattle." Tom swore under his breath. "This is bigger than a land dispute. This is someone trying to destroy all of us." "How do you figure?" Victor asked. "Because the same message that was left on your fence was left on mine," Tom said. "Different words, same meaning. Someone's digging up every dirty secret in this valley and using them as weapons." Lena felt cold. "What did your message say?" Tom looked at her directly for the first time. "It said the Brennan family made their fortune running stolen cattle through Indian territory and blaming the raids on the natives, which is true, which my grandfather did 40 years ago and thought he'd taken to his grave." "Someone's been doing research," Dawson said quietly. "Deep research. Or someone's been here the whole time," Lena said. "Someone who knows all the old stories, all the buried sins." Everyone turned to look at her. "Think about it," Lena said. "Who benefits from all of us fighting each other? Who gains if the big ranches tear each other apart?" "Someone who wants to buy up the pieces," Tom said slowly. "Someone with enough money to wait us out while we destroy ourselves." "Richard Williams," Victor said. "He's got the money," Tom agreed. "And the timing. He only moved here 5 years ago, bought the old Henderson place for cash. Nobody questioned where the money came from because he had papers saying he was from back east. But he wasn't, Lena said, seeing it now. Was he? Tom shook his head. My brother did some asking around. Turns out Richard Williams didn't exist before he showed up here. The name's fake. The story's fake. Everything's fake. So who is he really? Dawson asked. That Tom said is what we need to find out. They moved the discussion inside, but the tension didn't ease. Victor sent riders to bring in Richard Williams, but they came back an hour later empty-handed. His place is empty, the lead rider reported. Looks like he cleared out in a hurry. Left most of his furniture but took everything personal. He knew, Dawson said. He knew we'd figure it out eventually. Or he's just moving to the next phase of his plan, Lena said. Either way, he's not done. She was right. The next morning, 3 more ranches reported cattle stolen and property damaged. Messages left at each one, all digging up old secrets that everyone thought had been forgotten. The valley was fracturing. Ranchers who'd been neighbors for decades stopped speaking to each other. Old feuds resurfaced. And in the middle of it all, nobody could find Richard Williams. We need to get ahead of this, Lena said at breakfast on the 3rd day. We need to tell people the truth ourselves before whoever's doing this can use it against us. Tell them what? Victor asked. That I built this empire on fraud and theft. That'll solve everything. It'll take away his weapon, Lena said. He's using secrets as leverage. If there are no secrets, there's no leverage. She's right, Tom Brennan said. He'd been staying at the Hale Ranch trying to coordinate a response. We call a meeting, everyone, and we lay it all out, every dirty thing our families did to get where we are. We own it publicly. That's suicide, Victor said. Half the ranchers in this valley will use it as an excuse to try to take our land. Or, Lena said, half of them will realize they've got their own secrets they don't want exposed, and they'll want to work together to stop whoever's doing this. Victor looked at her for a long moment. Then he laughed that bitter laugh. You're going to be the death of me, girl. Or the saving of you, Lena said. The meeting was set for 2 days later. In the meantime, Lena had something else she needed to do. She found Martha in the kitchen that afternoon. I need to see my sister, Lena said. Martha raised an eyebrow. Your father's not going to let you near that house. I'm not asking permission, Lena said, but I need help getting a message to Eliza, privately. Martha studied her face, then she nodded. I know someone who works in the Cross household. I'll see what I can arrange. The message came back that night. Eliza would meet Lena in town the next morning at the church where nobody would see them. Lena rode in alone. Dawson had wanted to come with her, but she'd insisted on going by herself. This was something she needed to do without the Hale family standing behind her. Eliza was already waiting when Lena arrived. She looked thinner than she had 2 weeks ago, paler. Her beautiful face was drawn with exhaustion. You shouldn't have come, Eliza said. Father will kill you if he finds out. Let him try, Lena said. She sat down in the pew next to her sister. Are you all right? Eliza laughed, but there was no humor in it. Am I all right? You stole my fiancé, destroyed our family's reputation, and now you want to know if I'm all right? I didn't steal anything, Lena said quietly. There was no engagement, you know that. I know Father's version and I know yours, Eliza said, and I don't know which one to believe anymore. Believe mine, Lena said, because I've never lied to you, not once in our entire lives. Eliza was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Did you really want him, or did you just want to escape? Both, Lena admitted. But wanting to escape doesn't make the choice wrong. You know what Father is. You know what he would have done to you if you'd married into the Hale family. He would have used me, Eliza said, the way he's always used both of us. Yes, Lena said. And I'm sorry I left you there alone. But Eliza, I need to know something. Is Father involved in this? Involved in what? Someone's been sabotaging ranches, stealing cattle, leaving messages about old crimes. Is father part of it? Eliza's face went pale. I don't know, but he's been meeting with people, late at night, men I don't recognize. And he's got money suddenly, a lot of money. I don't know where it came from. Lena's stomach dropped. Who are the men? I don't know their names, but one of them. Eliza stopped biting her lip. What? One of them had a scar across his throat, like someone tried to hang him and it didn't quite work. Lena knew that scar. She'd seen it 2 weeks ago at the cattlemen's meeting. Jack Carson, she said. Is that his name? Eliza asked. Father called him something else, called him John. The pieces were falling into place, but the picture they made was worse than Lena had imagined. Eliza, Lena said carefully, I need you to do something for me. I need you to find out what Father's planning. What he and this Carson are planning together. He won't tell me anything, Eliza said. He barely speaks to me anymore, except to tell me how I've failed him by not being married yet. Then listen, Lena said. When they talk, listen to what they say. Write it down if you can, and get it to Martha at the Hale Ranch. Eliza looked frightened. If Father catches me, then you leave, Lena said firmly. You come to the Hale Ranch and you stay there. I'll protect you. You can't protect me from Father. I can, Lena said, and I will, but I need to know what he's planning first. Eliza nodded slowly. All right, I'll try. They sat together in silence for a few more minutes. Then Eliza said quietly, Do you love him, Dawson? Lena thought about it honestly. I don't know yet, but I respect him, and he respects me. That's more than most people get. That's more than I ever hoped for, Eliza said. She stood up. I need to go before Father notices I'm gone. Eliza, Lena said, standing too. When this is over, when things settle down, you're welcome at the ranch. You're my sister. That doesn't change. Eliza's eyes filled with tears. You don't know what Father's become. Since you left, he's gotten worse, meaner. He talks about you like you're already dead. Maybe I am, Lena said. Maybe the girl who lived in that house died the day I left, but I'm still your sister. Eliza hugged her quickly, fiercely. Then she was gone, slipping out the side door like a ghost. Lena rode back to the Hale Ranch with her mind spinning. Jack Carson working with her father. Money appearing from nowhere. Men meeting in secret. It all pointed to something bigger than just range wars and old grudges. When she got back, she found the entire household in chaos. Victor was shouting at someone. Dawson was trying to calm him down, and Martha was standing in the middle of it all, looking grim. What happened? Lena demanded. Someone burned the western hay barn, Dawson said. 3 months of feed gone, and they left another message. What did it say? Victor threw a piece of charred wood at her feet. Carved into it were words that made Lena's blood run cold. Victor Hale killed my father. Now I'm taking everything he built. Johnson. Victor said, his voice hollow. It's one of the Johnson children. They're back, and they want revenge. How do you know? Lena asked. Because that's exactly what I would do, Victor said. If someone destroyed my father, I'd spend the rest of my life planning how to destroy them back. Tom Brennan came rushing in. We've got a problem. Big problem. Someone just rode into town claiming they have proof that the Hale Ranch was built on fraudulent land claims. They're calling for a territorial investigation. Who? Dawson asked. A woman, Tom said. Young, maybe 30. Says her name is Sarah Johnson. Says her father was Andrew Johnson, and the Hales stole everything her family owned. Victor sat down heavily. For the first time since Lena had met him, he looked defeated. It's over, he said quietly. She's got the proof. She's got the documents. Everything I thought I'd buried is coming back. Then we face it, Lena said. We go to that meeting tomorrow and we tell the truth, all of it, before she can control the narrative. That won't save us, Victor said. Maybe not, Lena said. But it's the right thing to do. And maybe, just maybe, if we do the right thing for once, people will see that we're trying to change." "You really believe that?" Victor asked. "I have to," Lena said, "because the alternative is letting her destroy us without even trying to fight back." That night, Lena couldn't sleep again. She went downstairs and found Victor sitting alone in the dark, just like she'd found Dawson weeks before. "Can't sleep either?" Victor asked. "Too much to think about." Victor poured her a drink. They sat in silence for a while. "I was 23 when I took the Johnson land," Victor said finally. "I told myself it was business, just business, that they were in my way, and I was doing what I had to do to survive. I told myself that lie for so long, I started to believe it." "What changed?" Lena asked. "Catherine," Victor said. "Dawson's mother. She found out what I'd done, made me look at myself in the mirror and see what I'd become. I tried to make it right. Tracked down the Johnsons, tried to offer restitution. But Andrew Johnson wouldn't take it. Said money couldn't give him back his pride. Couldn't undo what I'd done to his children." "How many children did he have?" "3, Victor said. "Sarah was the oldest. She was maybe 10 when I took their land. She watched her father drink himself to death trying to cope with losing everything. And now she's back. And I don't blame her." "Do you want to give up?" Lena asked quietly. Victor looked at her. "Part of me does. Part of me thinks I deserve whatever's coming. And the other part wants to fight," Victor said. "Wants to prove that I can be better than what I was. That this empire can become something worth keeping instead of something built on other people's ruin." "Then fight," Lena said. "Tomorrow we tell everyone the truth. We offer to make restitution to every family you hurt. We build something new on top of the old foundation." "That's going to cost us everything," Victor said. "Then it costs us everything," Lena said. "But at least we'll be able to live with ourselves." Victor smiled slightly. "You sound like Catherine. She would have liked you." The meeting the next day was even bigger than the last one. Every rancher in the territory showed up along with half the town. They crammed into the warehouse standing room, only all of them waiting to see what would happen. Sarah Johnson was there standing at the front, with a leather satchel full of documents. She was tall and thin, with her father's eyes, and when she looked at Victor, there was nothing but cold hatred in her expression. Richard Williams was there too, Lena realized with a shock. Sitting in the back, watching everything with a satisfied smile. Victor stood up. The room went quiet. The room went. "Most of you know me," Victor said. "You know my reputation. You know I built the Hale Ranch into the biggest operation in this territory. What you don't know is how I did it." He paused, and Lena could see how hard this was for him, how much it cost him to stand there and confess. 30 years ago," Victor continued, "I falsified land documents to steal property from the Johnson family. I ruined them, destroyed them, and I didn't stop there. Over the years, I've bent the law, broken contracts, and crushed anyone who got in my way. I built an empire on other people's suffering." The room erupted in shouts. Sarah Johnson was standing now, her face triumphant. Richard Williams was leaning forward, hungry. "But," Victor said, raising his voice over the chaos, "I'm here today to make it right. Every family I wronged, every piece of land I took illegally, I'm prepared to return it or compensate for it, starting with the Johnsons." Sarah's expression shifted from triumph to confusion. "I don't want your money," she said. "I want justice." "Then take it," Victor said. "Take the land back. Take everything that should have been your father's. I won't fight you in court. I won't contest your claim. It's yours." The room went silent. This was not what anyone had expected. "You think that fixes anything?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking. "You think giving back what you stole erases what you did to my family?" "No," Victor said quietly. "It doesn't. Nothing can do that. But it's all I can offer." Richard Williams stood up. "This is very touching," Williams said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "But I'm afraid it's too late for redemption. You see, I've already filed claims on half the Hale property. Legal claims based on unpaid debts and broken contracts. By the time the courts sort through all of it, the Hale Ranch will be bankrupt." Lena felt her stomach drop. This was the real plan. This was what Williams had been working toward all along. "Who are you really?" Lena asked, standing up. "Because you're not Richard Williams. That name's fake. Everything about you is fake." Williams smiled. "Smart girl. My real name is Daniel Carson. Jack Carson is my brother. And 30 years ago the Hale family destroyed my father's ranch with the same tactics Victor just confessed to using on the Johnsons." The pieces clicked into place. Jack Carson wasn't just a foreman. He was part of a decades-long revenge plot. "You've been planning this for years," Dawson said. 27 years, Daniel said. "Since I was 15 years old and watched my father put a gun in his mouth because Victor Hale took everything we had. I've been patient. I've been careful. And now it's finally paying off." "You're destroying innocent people," Lena said. "People who had nothing to do with what Victor did. Collateral damage," Daniel said with a shrug. "Besides, there are no innocent people here. Every rancher in this room has dirty secrets. I've just been kind enough to expose them." Tom Brennan stood up. "You're the one who's been sabotaging ranches, stealing cattle, trying to start a range war." "Guilty?" Daniel said cheerfully. "And it worked beautifully. You're all so busy fighting each other that nobody noticed me buying up debt and filing legal claims. By next month, I'll own half this valley." "Not if we stop you," Lena said. Daniel laughed. "With what your stellar reputation, your unified front. Look around, Mrs. Hale. This valley is broken, and I'm the one who broke it." But Lena was looking around, and what she saw wasn't what Daniel thought she saw. She saw Sarah Johnson staring at Daniel with dawning horror. She saw Tom Brennan and his brother exchanging looks. She saw ranchers who'd been ready to tear each other apart, starting to realize they'd been manipulated. "You're wrong," Lena said quietly. "You didn't break us. You just showed us what we were already broken. But broken things can be fixed, if people are willing to do the work." She turned to Sarah Johnson. "Your father was destroyed by Victor's greed. I can't change that. But if you help us stop this man, if you help us build something better than what our parents left us, maybe we can make sure it never happens to anyone else." Sarah looked at her for a long moment. Then she looked at the documents in her hands. Then at Daniel Carson, who was starting to look less confident. "What are you proposing?" Sarah asked. "A partnership," Lena said. "Not revenge, not restitution. Something new. We pool our resources, share the land, build something that benefits everyone instead of just the people at the top." "That's insane," someone called out. "Probably," Lena agreed. "But what's the alternative? We keep doing things the old way. We keep stepping on each other until someone like Daniel Carson comes along and destroys us all." The room was quiet now, everyone thinking. Then Tom Brennan spoke up. "I'm in. Whatever the Hale family is willing to do to make this right, I'll match it. We share resources, share risks, share profits, build something that lasts." One by one, other ranchers started standing. Not all of them, but enough. Daniel Carson's face had gone red. "This doesn't change anything. I still have the legal claims. I still have—" "You have fraud," Sarah Johnson said, cutting him off. She was looking through the documents in her satchel, pulling out papers. "These debt claims, half of them are falsified. You did exactly what Victor Hale did 30 years ago. You're no better than him." Daniel lunged for the documents, but Tom Brennan was faster. He grabbed Daniel and held him while Sarah secured the papers. "Looks like we've got our own confession now," Tom said. "And witnesses. Lots of witnesses." Daniel struggled, but it was over. His carefully laid plans, his years of revenge, all of it crumbling in the face of something he hadn't counted on. People choosing to work together instead of tearing each other apart. The sheriff took Daniel away. His brother Jack tried to run, but was caught before he made it out of town. In the aftermath, Lena stood with Victor and Dawson and Sarah Johnson, all of them exhausted and uncertain, but still standing. "This doesn't fix everything," Sarah said quietly. "What your family did to mine, that's not something I can just forgive." "I know," Victor said, "but maybe we can build something worth forgiving. Eventually." Sarah nodded slowly. Maybe. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even friendship. But it was a start. The work started the next morning. Sarah Johnson sat at Victor's desk with a surveyor's map spread between them, her finger tracing property lines that had been redrawn a dozen times over 3 decades. This section was my father's. Sarah said, her voice steady, but her hand shaking slightly. And this one. And this. Victor didn't argue. He just nodded and made notes. Lena watched from the doorway, Dawson beside her. This was costing Victor everything he'd built, and yet he sat there calmly marking off pieces of his empire like he was dividing up a pie at Sunday dinner. He's going to give it all away, Dawson said quietly. No, Lena said. He's going to make it right. There's a difference. Tom Brennan arrived with 3 other ranchers, all of them carrying their own maps, their own grievances. By noon, the office was packed with people who'd spent decades as enemies, now sitting shoulder to shoulder, trying to figure out how to build something new. It was Martha who finally cut through the chaos. You're all talking about land, she said from the kitchen doorway. But nobody's talking about water. You can divide up every acre in this valley, but if you don't figure out water rights, you'll be fighting again by summer. She was right. The conversation shifted, became more complicated, more heated. Someone suggested a rotating schedule. Someone else proposed a shared reservoir system. Voices got louder, arguments started building. Stop, Lena said, and something in her voice made everyone turn. We're doing this wrong. We're still thinking like competitors instead of partners. What if we didn't divide the water at all? What if we pooled it? That's impossible, one of the ranchers said. You can't just... Why not? Lena interrupted. We pool the land into a cooperative. We share resources, share labor, share profits based on what each family contributes. Nobody owns everything. Nobody gets left with nothing. The room went quiet. That's radical, Sarah Johnson said slowly. That's not how ranching works. It's not how ranching has worked, Lena said. But maybe it's how it should work. Maybe the old way is what got us into this mess in the first place. Victor leaned back in his chair, studying her. Then he started to laugh. You're proposing we destroy the whole system, he said. I'm proposing we build a better one, Lena corrected. It'll never work, someone said. People are too selfish, too greedy. Then we'll fail, Lena said. But at least we'll fail trying to do something right instead of succeeding at doing something wrong. Tom Brennan stood up. I'm in. Whatever happens, I'm in. One by one, others agreed. Not everyone. Some ranchers walked out unwilling to give up the old ways, but enough stayed. Enough believed. They worked through the afternoon mapping out a system that had never been tried before. Equal shares, equal votes, equal responsibility. It was messy and complicated and probably insane, but it was also something new, something that didn't require crushing other people to survive. Lena was writing up the preliminary agreement when the door burst open. One of the Cross Ranch hands stood there breathing hard. Miss Lena, he gasped. Your sister sent me. She says you need to come now. Your father's something's wrong. She's scared. Lena's blood went cold. What happened? I don't know. She just gave me this. He handed over a crumpled piece of paper. Lena unfolded it. Eliza's handwriting shaky and rushed. Father knows I've been passing information. He's locked me in my room. He says if I betrayed him, I'm no daughter of his. Please come. I'm afraid of what he'll do. Dawson was already moving. I'll get horses. No, Victor said sharply. Thomas is waiting for you to come. This is a trap. I don't care, Lena said. She's my sister. Then we all go, Victor said, standing up. And we go prepared for trouble. They rode out 20 minutes later. Lena Dawson, Victor Tom Brennan, and 6 armed ranch hands. The Cross Ranch looked quiet, as they approached too quiet for mid-afternoon, when there should have been workers everywhere. Where is everyone? Dawson asked. Thomas sent them away. The cross hand who'd brought the message said, Told them to take the day off. It's just him and Miss Eliza in the house. Victor swore. Definitely a trap. But Lena was already dismounting. Eliza, she called. Eliza, it's me. The front door opened. Thomas Cross stood there with a rifle in his hands pointed directly at Lena. I knew you'd come, he said. Couldn't stay away, could you? Had to come running the minute your precious sister cried for help. Where is she? Lena demanded. Safe, Thomas said. For now. But that depends entirely on what happens in the next few minutes. Put the gun down, Thomas. Victor said, his own hand moving toward his weapon. Don't, Thomas said, swinging the rifle toward Victor. Don't even think about it. I've got nothing left to lose. You've already taken everything. We haven't taken anything, Lena said. You did this to yourself. I did this. Thomas laughed bitterly. I raised you. I fed you. I gave you a roof over your head. And the minute something better came along, you threw me away like I was nothing. You threw me away first, Lena said. Every day of my life you made it clear I was worth less than nothing to you. So yes, when someone offered me a choice, I took it. And I'd do it again. Thomas's face went purple. You ungrateful. A window shattered on the second floor. Eliza's voice. Lena, he's going to... The gunshot cut her off. Thomas had fired into the air, but the message was clear. Next one goes through the door to her room, Thomas said. Unless you do exactly what I say. What do you want? Dawson asked, his voice deadly calm. I want my daughter back, Thomas said, looking at Lena. I want you to publicly renounce this marriage. I want you to admit you were wrong. I want the Hale family to pay compensation for breaking the marriage contract, and I want my reputation restored. That's not going to happen, Lena said. Then your sister dies, Thomas said simply. Victor's gun was out now, pointed at Thomas. Tom Brennan had his weapon drawn too. The ranch hands had spread out surrounding the house. You shoot her, Victor said quietly, and you die 2 seconds later. You know that, right? There's no world where you walk away from this. Don't care, Thomas said. I've already lost everything that matters. Might as well take you all down with me. Lena could see it in his eyes. He meant it. Her father had gone past the point of reason, past the point of caring about consequences. He was broken, and broken things could be dangerous. Father, Lena said, keeping her voice steady. Listen to me. You don't want to do this. You're angry, I understand that. But killing Eliza won't fix anything. Neither will letting you get away with betraying your family, Thomas said. I didn't betray our family, Lena said. I saved myself from it. There's a difference. Not to me, Thomas said. Lena took a step forward. Dawson grabbed her arm, but she shook him off. If you want someone to blame, Lena said, blame me. Let Eliza go and take me instead. I'm the one who left. I'm the one who chose Dawson over you. Let her go, and we'll talk about what you want. Lena, no, Dawson said. But Thomas was considering it. Lena could see the calculation in his eyes. You come inside, Thomas said. Alone, unarmed. And everyone else backs away from the house. Then maybe I let Eliza go. Don't do it, Victor said. He'll kill you both. Maybe, Lena said. But if I don't try, he'll definitely kill her. She walked toward the house, her hands raised, showing she had no weapon. Behind her she could hear Dawson arguing with Victor, but she didn't stop. She climbed the porch steps and stood in front of her father. I'm here, she said. Let her go. Thomas grabbed her arm and yanked her inside, slamming the door behind them. In the sudden dimness of the house she'd grown up in, Lena felt a wave of old fear wash over her, but she pushed it down. Where is she? Lena asked. Upstairs, locked in her room like I said. Thomas was sweating, his hands shaking slightly on the rifle. You really think I'm going to hurt her? She's my daughter. So was I, Lena said. And you threw me away without a second thought. You left, Thomas said. You chose to leave. Because you gave me no reason to stay, Lena said. Because you made it clear every single day that I was worthless, that I only mattered when I was useful to you. I gave you a home, Thomas said. I gave you purpose. That should have been enough. It wasn't, Lena said simply. And it never would be, because what you were offering wasn't love, it was ownership. And I'm not something you can own. Thomas's expression crumpled. For a moment he looked old and lost and broken. What am I supposed to do now? He asked, and his voice had gone quiet, almost childlike. My daughters are gone. My reputation is destroyed. Everything I worked for is falling apart. You could start over, Lena said gently. You could let go of the anger and the pride and just start over. Join the cooperative we're building. Be part of something instead of trying to control everything. I can't, Thomas said. I don't know how to be anything except what I am. Then learn, Lena said. The same way I had to learn how to be something more than just your disappointing daughter. The rifle was lowering just slightly. Thomas was staring at nothing, lost in whatever thoughts were eating him alive. That's when Eliza came down the stairs. Lena's eyes widened. Her sister wasn't supposed to be free. The door was supposed to be locked. It was never locked, Eliza said quietly, seeing Lena's expression. He just told me it was, said I couldn't leave, and I believed him, because I always believe him when he says I can't do something. She looked at their father. Thomas was staring at her like he was seeing a ghost. You could have walked out at any time, he asked. Yes, Eliza said, but I was too scared of what you'd do, too scared of disappointing you again, too scared to be like Lena and just leave. So why now? Thomas asked. Because I'm tired, Eliza said. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of waiting for permission to have my own life. I'm tired of being the good daughter while Lena gets called the bad one, when really she's just the brave one. Thomas sat down heavily on the stairs. The rifle clattered to the floor. He wasn't crying, but his face had gone slack empty. I've lost you both, he said. I've lost everything. You lost us a long time ago, Lena said. You just didn't notice because we were still standing here. Outside, someone was shouting. Dawson's voice demanding to know what was happening. Victor's voice telling him to wait. What happens now? Eliza asked quietly. Lena looked at her father sitting there on the stairs, defeated and broken. She thought about all the years of anger she'd carried, all the hurt and resentment. And she felt it start to drain away, not because he deserved forgiveness, but because holding on to it was like carrying poison. Now, Lena said, we leave, both of us. And Father decides what kind of man he wants to be from here on out. She walked to the door and opened it. Dawson was there, immediately checking her for injuries, pulling her into his arms. I'm fine, Lena said. We're both fine. Eliza came out behind her, squinting in the bright afternoon sun. Tom Brennan stepped forward, offering his hand to help her down the steps. Thank you, Eliza said quietly. Victor was watching the house, his gun still drawn. Thomas coming out. I don't know, Lena said honestly. I don't think he knows what he's doing anymore. They waited. After a long moment, Thomas appeared in the doorway. He looked smaller, somehow diminished. The rifle was gone, left somewhere inside. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Thomas said. I don't deserve it. But I want you both to know I did love you. I just didn't know how to show it except by trying to control everything, by trying to make you into what I thought you should be, instead of seeing what you already were. Lena nodded. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. The cooperative we're building, Victor said carefully. There's a place in it for anyone who's willing to work. That includes you, Thomas, if you can let go of the need to be in charge of everything. Thomas looked at him for a long moment. I'll think about it. It was more than Lena had expected. They rode back to the Hale Ranch as the sun was setting, Eliza riding double with Lena. Her sister was quiet, processing everything that had happened. Where will I go? Eliza asked finally. "You'll stay with us," Lena said, "for as long as you need." "I don't know how to be like you," Eliza said. "Strong and brave and—" "You are like me," Lena interrupted. "You just proved it. You could have stayed in that room. You could have waited for someone to rescue you. But you walked out yourself. That's brave." Eliza leaned her head against Lena's shoulder. "I've always been jealous of you, you know. Even when I was supposed to be the pretty one, the favored one. I was jealous because you never needed anyone's approval. You just did what needed to be done." "I needed approval," Lena admitted. "I just never got it, so I had to learn to live without it. You're going to learn too. It just takes time." The weeks that followed were a blur of activity. The cooperative began to take shape, legal documents drawn up, land shares allocated, water rights negotiated. It was messy and complicated and occasionally descended into shouting matches, but slowly and possibly, it started to work. Sarah Johnson proved to be a natural mediator, able to see all sides of an argument and find the common ground. Tom Brennan brought organizational skills that nobody had expected. Even Thomas Cross eventually showed up at a meeting, sitting in the back and listening without saying a word. And Lena found herself at the center of it all, not because she'd sought power, but because people trusted her judgment. They'd seen her stand up to her father. They'd seen her challenge the old ways. They'd seen her choose what was right over what was easy. Victor's health began to fail in late summer. The doctor said it was his heart, worn out from decades of stress and whiskey, and the weight of choices he could never quite escape. He called Lena to his room one afternoon when Dawson was out checking fence lines. "I want you to promise me something," Victor said. His voice was weak, but his eyes were still sharp. "What?" Lena asked. "Don't let Dawson turn into me," Victor said. "Don't let him think power is the same thing as strength. Don't let him forget that the people who work for us are people, not tools." "He won't," Lena said. "He's better than that. You raised him better than that." Victor smiled slightly. "Catherine raised him better than that. I just tried not to ruin what she built." He reached out and took Lena's hand. "You remind me of her. Same fire. Same refusal to accept things just because that's how they've always been." "Thank you," Lena said quietly. "Take care of him," Victor said. "Take care of this place. Make it into something worth keeping." "I will," Lena promised. Victor died 2 days later, quietly in his sleep. The funeral was the largest the valley had ever seen, not because Victor had been loved, but because he'd been respected. And because in the end, he'd tried to make things right. Lena stood beside Dawson at the graveside, watching them lower the coffin into the ground. She thought about the empire Victor had built and the cooperative they were transforming it into. She thought about how sometimes the hardest thing was admitting you were wrong and trying to do better. After the funeral, the cooperative members gathered at the Hale Ranch, which was now officially the valley's shared headquarters. They voted on the first major decision, what to name their organization. "The Cattlemen's Cooperative," someone suggested. "Too exclusive," Sarah said. "We've got women working here too." "The Valley Partnership," another voice offered. "The New Way Alliance." They debated for an hour. Finally, Eliza, who'd been sitting quietly through all of it, spoke up. "What about just the Valley?" she said. "No qualifiers, no limitations. Just us working together trying to build something that lasts." The vote was unanimous. That night, Lena stood on the porch looking out at the land that had cost so many people so much. Dawson came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You did it," he said quietly. "You changed everything." "We did it," Lena corrected. "All of us together." "My father was right about you," Dawson said. "You're exactly what this place needed. What I needed." Lena turned to face him. "Do you ever regret it? Choosing me instead of Eliza?" "Not once," Dawson said. "Eliza is beautiful and kind, and she's going to make someone very happy someday. But you're my partner, my equal, the person who makes me want to be better than I am." He kissed her, and Lena felt something settle in her chest, something that felt like coming home. "I love you." She said the words coming easier than she'd expected, I love you too, Dawson said. I think I have since I watched you deliver that calf in the rain and realized you were exactly the kind of stubborn I needed in my life. They were married the following spring in a ceremony that was equal parts wedding and cooperative meeting. Sarah Johnson stood as one of Lena's attendants. Tom Brennan served as Dawson's best man. Even Thomas Cross attended, sitting in the back with an expression that might have been pride or might have been regret. The valley flourished. Within a year, they doubled their collective profits by sharing resources and eliminating competition. Within 2 years, other regions were sending representatives to learn about their model. Within 3 years, they'd become proof that the old ways of ranching built on power and control and stepping on anyone weaker weren't the only ways. Lena gave birth to a daughter the following winter, a red-faced, squalling thing that came into the world fighting. They named her Catherine after Dawson's mother. "She's got your stubbornness," Dawson said, watching his wife nurse their daughter. "Good," Lena said. "She's going to need it." Because Lena knew that what they'd built was fragile. It required constant work, constant vigilance, constant choosing to do the hard right thing instead of the easy wrong thing. But it was worth it. Every single day, it was worth it. She looked at her daughter and thought about the girl. She'd been invisible, underestimated, written off as the daughter who didn't matter. She thought about the choice she'd made to leave to risk everything for the chance at something better. And she thought about the woman she'd become, a leader, a partner, a mother, someone who'd proven that worth wasn't something given by family or position or beauty. Worth was something you built with your own hands, your own choices, your own refusal to accept that things couldn't change. Eliza married Tom Brennan's younger brother the following spring, a quiet man who loved her gentleness and never tried to change her. Thomas Cross eventually joined the Valley, officially working in the background, never quite able to let go of his bitterness, but also never quite able to destroy what his daughters had helped build. Years later, when people told the story of how the Valley came to be, they always started the same way, with a girl. No one chose who chose herself instead. A girl who walked away from everything familiar for the chance to become something more. A girl who transformed an empire built on cruelty into a partnership built on respect. Lena Cross Hale, they called her. The woman who changed everything. And she had. Not by being perfect, not by always knowing the right answer, but by refusing to accept that the way things had always been was the way things had to stay. By standing up when it would have been easier to stay silent. By choosing partnership over power, collaboration over control, truth over comfortable lies. The girl no one wanted became the woman everyone needed, and in doing so, she proved that sometimes the most overlooked person in the room is exactly the person who will change the world.
Alternative ways to watch content. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But we'll see. We'll see. Air. Got you there. Cranston. Which honestly, I probably should have done a long time ago. To some extent. But for the longest time, I had access to some stuff for free. But it's unfortunate. It's the greed of companies, sadly. This time. It's kind of fucking wild that they're like, no, we don't want to give this as an employee benefit anywhere. I'm like, well, F you. That's ridiculous that you do this to your employees now.